Dave Smith, iconic interview. Iconic.
Welcome to another edition of Dave Smith Unleashed. We got a great show lined up for you again today. And of course, we want to thank all of you. We've been only on the air for about a month now. So thanks to all the subscribers. Thanks to all the listeners. And of course, thanks to our great sponsor, MTS Transportation. Call them at 800-640-6873 for reliable, on-time delivery, compliance you can count on, round-the-clock support, superior communication, experienced logistic partners, and mention the Dave Smith Unleashed podcast and get 20% off on your next shipment. All right, let's get out to the guest hotline right now. Tom Loeffler is always welcome on my show. He's been a great guest of mine over the years and a good friend of the show, and promoting the big show coming up May 17th, this Saturday at Commerce Casino. Hollywood Fight Nights, the president of 360 Promotions, and, of course, a recent inductee into the Boxing Hall of Fame. Great stuff. Tom Loeffler, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Dave. It's great to be here, and always good to talk boxing with you. We've known each other for a long time, and like you said, this May 17th show at Commerce Casino, we're really excited about this one coming up. We got some great fights on that show.
Well, should I call you a Sir Tom Loeffler or Mr. Loeffler now that you're in the Hall of Fame? Has our relationship changed?
You can just say Hall of Famer Tom Loeffler, but congrats on the new podcast. I'll definitely be tuning in and subscribing to it. Always enjoy listening to Talking Sports.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. 33 years in the business. So look at the lineup you've worked with over the years. Kevin Kelly, Shane Mosley, Oba Carr, James Toney, the Klitschko brothers, Triple G. I mean, when you look back on your career, wow, you've worked with some of the all-time greats.
No, I've been fortunate, that some of the biggest names in boxing have put their faith, in me to guide their career. And we did a number of fights. We did the Superfly series with Chocolatito. We did 2 fights with Layla Ali. I helped Usyk 2 times on HBO. So, I've been fortunate to work with some of the biggest names in boxing. And now with the Hollywood Fight Night show on UFC Fight Pass, we're looking to, develop the next generation of stars. And we got a number of them in the pipeline right now.
Well, let's talk about Saturday night, May 17th at the Commerce Casino. This is some show. I mean, a triple header of a main event caliber action. This might be the best show you put together yet for Hollywood Fight Nights. This is a really good show coming up.
I get excited about every show, but this one really, it's hard to compare this one because you got Serhii Bohachuk, who's rated number 1 in the world in WBC ratings. He's fighting very tough Michael Fox, and then you have Omar Trinidad, one of my favorite fighters. I mean, all of them are our favorite fighters, but Omar Trinidad, the king of LA, never in a boring fight. He's number 2 in the world, taking on Alexander Espinoza, who's 20-3. And then one of my favorite fighters, this will be her second fight with us. She looks like an anime character from Japan. She's the Japanese world champion, Mizuki Hiruta. We just gifted her, Manning Robles gifted her Otani jersey from the Dodgers. So we're going to look to create the next Japanese sports star out here in LA, and she's defending her title in a mandatory title defense against Carla Merino. So this is a great show. Has something for everyone. It's got we have got nine fights on the show. The doors open at 4:00, and it's going to be a fun night at Commerce Casino.
Well, Commerce Casino, they always put on a great show, and as do you promoting these. And May 17th, Commerce Casino coming up on Saturday night. But Serhii Bohachuk, he fought Virgil Ortiz recently. And, Tom, I don't know anybody who thinks Ortiz won that fight, and he survived 2 knockdowns, and somehow he got the decision there. But I don't know anybody who really thinks he won that fight. I thought Serhii got robbed.
I agree with you, Dave. It was a very competitive fight, very close, over 12 rounds. But when you count the 2 knockdowns, I don't know, over 12 rounds, I don't know how you can overcome those 4 points, given all the other rounds were very close. One judge, after the second knockdown in the 8th round, one judge scored the last 4 rounds for Virgil. So I'm not sure how he came up with that. Sometimes these judges do the arithmetic in their heads, and it seemed like that one was really trying to, lean towards Virgil. So it was unfortunate for Serhii, but, he had a great year last year. We feel that he won that fight. So, Serhii's really at the top of that division. It was fight of the year, so you got to give both guys a lot of credit. It was a nonstop, unlike some of the recent fights we've seen, it was nonstop action. Like I said, it had the 2 knockdowns. got to give Virgil credit. Virgil really stepped up in the fight. But Serhii had a great year last year, so we're excited to bring him back. This will be his first time actually fighting. He trains out here also with Manny Robles. First time fighting in LA for a while because he fought in Vegas twice last year and then in Saudi Arabia. So a lot of the local fans here in LA are going to be happy to see Serhii Bohachuk returning to the ring out here.
By one of the world's great boxing promoters, Tom Loeffler, joining Dave Smith here on Dave Smith Unleashed. So tell us how, if we can't get out to Commerce Casino, how do we watch it? And if you can't get out there, how do we get tickets?
So all of our fights are telecast on UFC Fight Pass. It's the largest combat sports streaming platform in the world. They do over 220 events per year. So we're really excited about the partnership with UFC Fight Pass. Dana White has been a huge supporter of what we're doing. Like I mentioned, we have the next generation of stars. Serhii Bohachuk certainly has that written all over him. Omar Trinidad does. Callum Walsh has really carved out a niche as the fastest rising star in boxing. He's only 13-0, 11 knockouts, but he's already headlined Madison Square Garden 3 times. He's headlined the 3 Arena in Dublin over there, selling over 5,000 tickets. And then, the rest of the fights have been out here in LA, along with Boston. So, we're excited about Callum. He's got that Irish confidence, the charisma, the knockout power trained by Freddie Roach. He's actually going to be fighting June 21 in Chumash Casino. But fans can buy tickets at the door at Commerce Casino or go to 360 Promotions on the social media, and the link to buying tickets online is there on my social media and 360 Promotion.
Boy, you're 2 heavyweight world champions that you promoted for K2 Promotions, Vladimir and Vitaly Klitschko. I remember when the war started over there, you were very, very concerned when I had you on the show. I could hear it in your voice where, Vitaly is the mayor of Kyiv and Vladimir was over there, and they both joined the army to help fight against the Russians. And you said you'd heard that Vladimir Putin had put a bounty on both of them, and you were concerned about them. So how are they doing these days?
They're doing okay. In fact, I just saw Vladimir last week. He was in LA for the Milken conference. He was here for a day and a half. He can't leave. He lives in Ukraine and Kiev, so it's hard, for him to get out unless he's got official business, representing Ukraine or on he's a great ambassador for Ukraine. And like you said, when Russia first invaded, I really thought the worst for them, because literally and figuratively they were big targets and high on the list. I had heard there was like a top 10 list of people that the Russians were trying to get, and naturally the Klitschkos being 2 of the most famous Ukrainians, along with some of the other politicians, were high up on that list. And it's not like they can duck duck in a crowd. They really stand out. And with Vitaly, the mayor of Kiev, that's really the number 2 position over there, because you have the president of Ukraine, but everything really revolves around Kiev. And that's why Putin wanted to go in so quickly to try to take Kiev. And, luckily they were able to defend the city. Vitaly has done, I believe, a tremendous job over there as the mayor, rebuilding a lot of the infrastructure that some of the missiles and rockets explode, the hospitals that were targeted, the schools, different things of that nature. So I got to give Vitaly a lot of credit. They're both really, they were some of the greatest heavyweight champions. Vladimir with the longest reigning run as heavyweight champion, trained by the great Emmanuel Stewart. But what they're fighting now is just it's the odds are so stacked against them that every time I think about it, and the courage and bravery of the Ukrainian people fighting such a large nation and large military power like Russia, it's pretty emotional with everything like that. But I'm just glad that that they're safe. But they do have a lot of friends in the military. They support the military very ardently, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of Ukrainian life, really life on both sides, that has been lost. And it's really, when you think about it, it's kind of a senseless war when they were so close. A lot of marriages and a lot of relations between Ukraine and Russia, and now you basically have families fighting against each other, which is crazy to think of.
Tom Loeffler, 360 promotion joining Dave Smith here, and Dave Smith Unleashed, the big show coming up this Saturday, May 17th at Commerce Casino, a triple header of great boxing action. You know, we've talked over the years about, I keep thinking Vladimir is going to make a comeback here. He's still in his 40s, and when you look at the heavyweight division right now, he has to think he could probably come back and win. And I saw a picture of him the other day recently. He looks like he's in better shape now than when he was. His physique was unbelievable. Looked like he was paddleboarding out in the ocean or something. He's in phenomenal shape for 49. Is he going to make a comeback?
Oh, Vladimir is in great shape. You know, if he wanted to fight, I would imagine he would be very successful making a comeback. He always kind of toyed with the idea of breaking George Foreman's record.
Yeah.
To be the oldest heavyweight champion in the world. You know, naturally he supports Alexander Usyk, who's with K2 Ukraine, supports him 100%. But you know, he's not going to fight Usyk because it's two countrymen. But yeah, Vladimir, I believe, was toying around with that. But as of now, there's no concrete plans for that. And he didn't want to fight just to fight. He doesn't need the money. He really wanted the prestige of breaking. You know, we all respect everything that George Foreman has accomplished. May he rest in peace. And
yeah,
Vladimir is in great shape. And if anyone can do it, my money would be on Vladimir.
And when you look at the promotions that you put on are always so great. And last weekend we had that Times Square show, and it was fantastic in Times Square with all the lights. It was a great setting for a fight show, but the card was kind of a dud. The Haney fight was a bore. Teofimo Lopez looked pretty good, but it wasn't really a competitive fight. Then Ryan Garcia looked like he wasn't ready to go when he lost in the main event. So the card was kind of a dud despite the great setting. So, you know, as a promoter, is there much you can do about that, or does it go into the matchmaking pre-fight?
You know, it kind of goes to the matchmaking. I don't know the thoughts that were involved with those particular matches. It seemed like Devin was very cautious in there. You know, content to win a decision. And Ryan looked like a totally different person to me. I'm a big Ryan Garcia fan, but you know, I thought I can understand with Devin, you know, because he had gotten dropped a number of times in the fight with Ryan. I could understand he was going to be cautious, but I really thought Ryan would go out there and kind of bombs away with rollers. You got to give him a lot of credit. But it seemed like when Ryan got dropped in the second round, that totally changed his game plan. Kind of goes like what Mike Tyson said, the famous quote of everyone has a game plan until you get hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
It was a great setting, like you said, at Times Square. I think the logistics definitely were challenging out there. But, you know, sometimes the best laid plans don't come to fruition. And I know His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh spent a lot of money on that show, and it didn't really seem to pay off for the sport of boxing or for the fans.
They're thinking about putting a show on Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay. I said, now that would be interesting, seeing that whole island lit up and boats taking the fans out there and with the view of the bay and the Golden Gate Bridge. Hopefully they can put together a good competitive show. That sounds like a great idea. That's
a good idea. You know, logistics with the boat and everything, but I don't think anything is as complicated as New York City with their, you know, with all the permits, you know, when you're talking about the traffic, the fire department, police department, the unions you need to get activated over there. You know, Madison Square Garden is my favorite venue to promote shows at, and I know how difficult it is inside the Garden. You know, we did a number of shows in big soccer stadiums with the Klitschko's when they were dominating the heavyweight division over there. It's, you know, 50, 60,000 seat soccer stadiums, and those logistics are tough. And I can only imagine how difficult it was in Times Square. And yeah, it just unfortunately didn't live up to the hype. I really think in those situations, everyone wanted to see the rematch with Haney and Garcia. I think in those situations, they should just go straight into the rematch instead of doing, you know, build-up fights, because look at Ryan lost, and then, you know, now it's a question whether they're even going to do the rematch or what the plan is. But yeah, I'm a proponent. Just go straight into the fight that the fans want to see. You don't need these build-up fights, because a lot of times they just fall short. Yeah, Madison Square Garden is such a great venue. You know, it's too bad you couldn't have put the first two Canelo Triple G fights in Madison Square Garden. I think you might have gotten a fair shake from the judges there, because in my opinion, Triple G won both of those first two fights. But, well, you know how it is in Vegas with Canelo and Oscar promoting. That's tough. I wish those fights could have been at MSG. It seemed like we were fighting Bob Bennett from the commission. We're fighting Canelo and and Golden Boy, all three at the same time up there in Vegas. I really think that if those fights happened in New York City in Madison Square Garden, and Canelo fought in the Garden before, and Triple G fought a number of times out there, they would have definitely sold out MSG. And I agree with you. I mean, same thing with Harold Letterman. He had both the first fights from HBO, the neutral judge. He had both fights going to Triple G, and I really think had they fought in New York City, we would have had two different official results in the ring.
The best round Triple G had in both the first two fights, I think, was round 7 in fight number 1. That could have been a 2-point round, the way he battered Canelo all over the ring. One of those judges gave that round to Canelo, which is why it was a draw. That was a scandal. That was the best round he had.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, and I still remember like it was yesterday. One judge had the first fight, which most people scored, just like with Harold Letterman. I had it scored the same way, 8 rounds to 4 for Triple G. One judge had it scored 10 rounds to 2. But one of those rounds, the 7th round, like you said, another judge had it scored for Canelo. If he would have scored it for Triple G would have gotten the win in the first fight, and that shows how close it was. 1 point would decide it, and yeah, that was unfortunate. It was bizarre scoring up there, and it's almost inexplicable. I see Andy Foster just suspended a referee over the weekend here that did a Top Rank show, and I really think that the judge that scored it 10 rounds to 2 should have been suspended for a long time. Sometimes you have an off night.
Yep.
But something like that, then there was just something wrong going in one direction that night.
Yeah, I had it 116, 112, and then 115, 113 in the rematch, both for Triple G. And you say it's inexplicable, the scoring, which I agree with, but when you factor in Oscar's relationship with the casino magnates and his long history there in Vegas and the relationship with the boxing commissioner, then it's not so inexplicable.
Yeah, you know, the saying in boxing is the fighters fight for today and the judges score for tomorrow, meaning they want to get another assignment if they feel like they're scoring for the person that they think the promotion or, wants to win. And it was just unfortunate. If I have a fighter that legitimately loses a fight, then the score should go for the other fighter. It shouldn't be, whoever, and even though Triple G was a champion, he was the one bringing all the belts in the first fight. In fact, the second fight, because he retained his belts with the draw. And it was really kind of bizarre circumstances with the scoring and just with the commission and the hand wraps. And I mean, the list goes kind of on and on, but really, if the scoring had been correct, I agree with you. I had it 8-4 the first fight, 8-5 the second fight. If they would have given him a draw in the second fight, at least let him keep his titles, I would have been okay with that. But it was unfortunate. But it's one of those things. Triple G, had a great career. I think he was one of the most devastating fighters, well, for sure, that I've ever seen. He had 23 knockouts in a row, taking on all challengers. And, what he accomplished in the ring, just having guys moving divisions or vacating titles or, I've never seen that before. Usually when you have a unified champion, fighters want to jump at the chance to fight him. But with Triple G, it was like the people were negotiating like retirement money, like that would be their last fight of their career. And that was bizarre to me, but such a nice guy outside the ring, great ambassador for the sport of boxing. I'm happy for him now that he's the head of the National Olympic Committee for Kazakhstan, and it looks like he might be able to say boxing for the Olympics. I mean, it's unfathomable for me. I've been ardent boxing supporter for the majority of my life, and Olympics without the boxing is really unimaginable for me. So hopefully he can get it all worked out with the Olympic Committee, the IOC, and so we have boxing here in LA for 2028.
Yeah, I love talking about the judging, Tom. Joseph Stalin once said, it's not important who votes, it's important who counts the votes. And that kind of goes for boxing judges, too. It's not important who wins the fight. It's important who's scoring the fight.
You're right. And I would have to say the one judge who scored it 10 rounds to 2, probably it's a safe bet to say she was the only one that scored it that way in the entire world. I would be willing to bet on that one.
She missed a hell of a fight. She must have had her back turned to the ring.
I don't know. It's, I try not to get into personal things, but it's just, it's unfortunate for the fighters, that you go through all that training, you go through all the hard work and tears and every sweat and everything like that, and then to have it taken away from you when the majority of the fans believe you should have won. And that's one thing, Dave, I don't understand in boxing is, a football game, sometimes you'll get a bad call or whatever. But if the majority of the fans think one fighter should have won and it goes to the other fighter because of 3 judges, then what's the point of the sport of boxing when the fans like, well, what did I just see? And they're like, oh, well, those must be the expert judges. Maybe I didn't see it right, but the fans saw it the right way. And I'm a big proponent of open scoring. If you would have heard those scores and you would have heard like one judge had it so sideways, it's like, okay, now you got to go in there and knock Canelo out. I really think it'd be like going in a football game or the Super Bowl, going in the fourth quarter and not knowing which team is winning. How are you going to devise the game plan, to win the end of the game?
Well, last Friday's Times Square show was a dub. The Saturday night fight between Canelo and Skull was one of the worst fights I've ever seen. They should save that one and show it as an episode of Dancing with the Stars next season and show that. But Naoya Inoue saved my boxing weekend on Sunday with another great performance. That's why, Tom, they should call you the Amazing Kreskin or give you a turban or a crystal ball because you're the first one that brought him over here back in 2017 and knew what you had in Inoue. And I think he's the best fighter in the world, pound for pound.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying about Chocolatito. We had the Super Fight series on HBO, and we were able to feature Inoue in his first appearance over here in the United States. So I was excited about doing that, and he definitely earned his nickname of the Monster. The way he fights and his knockout percentage, and he's an exciting fighter. I just like exciting fighters. Triple G is exciting. Trinidad's exciting. Callum Watts is exciting. Bohachuk's exciting. So you see kind of like the type of the style of fighters that I like, and Inoue definitely fits into that mold. I figure if a fan is buying a pay-per-view or buying a ticket to the fight, you want to give them excitement. You don't want to say, like you said, Dancing with the Stars. You don't want to see 12 rounds of just going around the ring. And I think one fight set like the 4th lowest punches on Friday. And then the Canelo fight actually beat that record.
It's a non-contact sport, boxing.
I don't know what was going on with that one.
I think Canelo's on the downside. I've been saying that for a couple of years now. And I know it's tough when the other guy doesn't want to fight and he's running like Skull was. It's tough to look good, but he looked plodding. He looked slow. He's 34. I think he's on the downside. I'm in the minority here. I think Terrence Crawford's going to beat him in September. Canelo's always had trouble with movers and boxers, and Crawford is the epitome of that. And, he walks around at 170, 175. I've seen him between fights. I don't think 68 is going to be a real problem for him. I like Crawford in that fight.
You know what? I think a lot of people joined your opinion after that fight, and I can't blame Canelo. I'm certainly not saying it was a boring fight for Canelo, but when you have someone like Skull who was just literally just running around the ring the whole time, I'm not sure what he was thinking he was accomplishing. It was a unification fight, one of the biggest stages in boxing, but and I think Canelo was content to just unify the titles that way. He wasn't gonna chase after him and tackle him, so I think he was content. The other guy didn't really want to fight. It seemed like both got paid very well, but now with Crawford, Bud Crawford's a whole different story. He's got a tremendous IQ, tremendous bag of tricks of all of his combinations, and I think that's gonna be a great fight between him and Canelo. I agree that Canelo's slowed down after since the Triple G fights. Crawford's coming up in weight, so I really think that's gonna be a great boxing match coming September 12th.
When I was watching that Canelo Skull fight, I thought of a time. I was in Vegas one time, and I was sitting next to the great Burt Randolph Sugar, my good friend. We were sitting in press row next to each other, and there was a stinker of a main event going on. And he turned to me and gave me one of the great lines ever. He said they should have let everybody in for free tonight and charged them to get out.
Yeah, sometimes you feel that way. Sometimes you feel that way with boxing. Yeah, and that goes back to the Triple G mentality of, you want to put on. That's what Abel Sanchez always told them. You're putting on a show for the fans. If someone's going to pay, I don't know how much they're paying these days for tickets, but you're going to pay that kind of money, and they want to be entertained. And if you don't want to be in a competitive fight, or you don't want to put on an exciting fight, then you shouldn't really be. Maybe it's not the right sport for you, because that's why Triple G became so popular. It was almost like a Mike Tyson-esque situation. The fans didn't care how early a knockout was coming, but they just wanted to see the excitement and the ring walk and the entrance, everything like that. And he really provided a lot of excitement for the fans. And I think that's what propelled him, especially with the Mexican fans. They liked his character. They liked that he was humble, and they liked that he was knocking everybody out. So it really, it was a great combination for him.
Well, Tom, before we let you go, and I appreciate the time you're taking with us here, tell us again about the big show coming up at Commerce Casino this Saturday night, and how we can get tickets and how we can watch.
We got, May 17th, Commerce Casino, Serhii Bohachuk, number 1 in the world, WBC, Omar Trinidad, the King of LA. So many fans come out to see Omar Trinidad. Mizuki Hiruta, very exciting, Japanese world champion, defending her title. And then we also have, there's so many great fights on the show, but Lupita Medina, also trained by Manny Robles, Eduardo Diaz, who's actually an active LAPD officer, and we're definitely big supporters of the police and fire department and the military. So Eduardo brings a lot of support from his fellow officers, and we're excited to have him on. It's a great show. Doors open at 4:00, opens early on a Saturday, televised live on UFC Fight Pass. And yeah, you can go to our website or the social media at 360 Promotions, and also my social media, Tom Loeffler 1. The link there is in the bio. So that's the easiest way to buy tickets. And those shows always sell out. This one here is going to be full, a packed house, and it always gets we get a lot of energy there at Commerce Casino.
Can't wait for this show coming up Saturday, the one in June, with King Callum Walsh, one of the most exciting young fighters in boxing. All kinds of great stuff going on with Tom Loeffler. Tom, I appreciate you coming on here with Dave Smith Unleashed, and you promised to get me 1,000 new subscribers, right? Isn't that the deal we made?
That's the deal. Yeah, we're working on it, definitely.
Hey, Tom, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There he goes. The great Tom Loeffler. That's it for another edition of Dave Smith Unleashed. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you listen, and follow me on Twitter, or X as you want to call it, at Dave Sports God. And I'm always posting about what the next show is going to be, who the guest's going to be, what the topic is going to be. So we'll talk to you next time on Dave Smith Unleashed. And make sure you support our great sponsor, MTS Transportation, at 800-640-6873. We'll talk to you next time.